Good evening. How's everybody doing tonight? My name is George Tabb. I'm with Life Without Limits Coaching and Counseling. And tonight I'm solo. You get just me. Hope you're not disappointed. But tonight I've got a great call or show lined up for you tonight. And let me do a couple things, take care of a little homework before I get started. So this is a public forum, and anything placed in a comment is public and all can see. And this is not therapy. This is actually coaching. So if you have a private matter or a question, please send an email to life, Life, without limits, with an SCC at gmail.com. And I do want to encourage you tonight. This is really going to be some good information, as we always try to really put just a good show and make this time worth your time, okay? Because that's important. You can get money back, but you can't get time back. And so, but tonight is specifically important because tonight I enjoy dealing with the money issue, okay? And you say, well, George, money isn't everything. Well, one of my mentors, Les Brown, says, well, it's right up there with oxygen. Okay, so it is important. All right, and what I found is that, when I used to say, well, money's not important, money's not everything, I was actually more concerned about it because I didn't have it. So a lot of my decisions were made out of the lack of money. And I found out with the lack of money, sometimes it becomes your total existence. It becomes your total focus because, you say, well, everything is, well, how much does this cost? Man, I can't believe this costs so much. Tonight there's a lot of resources, and you've got a lot of resources. I heard a guy say one time, he said he says, where you'll find the most resources, like a gold mine, is in the graveyard. I was listening to Les Brown, and he said, so-and-so died with that book in them. So-and-so died with that business idea in them. And so we all have things that, honestly, that we could do to help our financial situation, to make things better. Not necessarily a job kind of thing, because for those of you that know me, I'm not really a job kind of guy, okay? The best thing I ever did was get out of the military, okay, to be honest with you. Nashima says, well, I don't know how you did it as long as you did. Well, you do what you got to do to make the ends meet, but it doesn't have to be your total existence. It doesn't have to be the end all be all. And so tonight, that's kind of what I want to talk about, because there's this big erroneous way of thinking, in my opinion. Now, this is just my opinion, okay? Where we misidentify things. And one of the things that we misidentify is failure. So let me give you an example. Okay, so let's just say you've got a goal to lose some weight. Okay, all right. And for some strange reason, although you want to lose weight, you eat a whole pizza at 11 o'clock, right? So you get on the scales the next morning, and what do you think you're going to be? You think you're going to lose weight, or you think you're going to be up? You think you're going to be down, right? You'll probably be up, right? Maybe up a couple pounds, right? Not good, because that's not your goal. Your goal is actually to lose weight, not to gain weight, right? All right, so did you fail at losing weight? Well, maybe you didn't hit the mark that particular day, but you may be able to recover over the next couple of days, right? So did you fail? Or did you get results? So think about it. The way you learn how you love to do something is by doing a lot of things that you don't really enjoy, right? When I think about my entrepreneurship, businesses, jobs, I think about all those things, there's a natural progression. And each time I got a little bit closer to what I really wanted to do. Okay, now I'm doing exactly what I want to do. Okay, couple little adjustments, but that's coming. But I'm doing exactly what I want to do. All right, and so it's a natural transition. Okay, and but the way you learn what you don't want to do is by doing what you don't want to do. Is that failure? No, that's success because you're getting results, but you're learning what you don't want to do. So sometimes we identify things as being failure when it was success. Because you figured out what you didn't want to do. You figured out what you didn't like about that. You said, well, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. So you found something else to do. So a job came open in this area or an opportunity came open in this area and you went for that. And the reason you did is because of doing what you don't want to do. So the way you understand what you want to do is by doing what you don't want to do. And so there's a couple things when we're talking about money. So what I would like for you to learn is, if you haven't learned it already, and I'm still learning this myself, I'm just still a baby. Okay, I'm still learning these things. All right, and so I think it's important that you learn how to fail. So you gotta understand what failure is. Okay, what's failure? What's not failure? You know, one of the things that I figured out is that, okay, so here's what you got to ask yourself. You got to ask yourself is, number one, what have you been successful at in the past? So what have you done in the past? What have you been successful at? So take a look at your businesses that you've owned. Take a look at the jobs that you've had. Look at what you enjoyed about them. All right. And so what I'd like for you to learn, that every one of us has something else that we can add to our plate right now that can make things better for us financially. Maybe not immediately, you know, because one thing I figured out is you've got to do something and be bad at it before you're good at it. I don't know if that makes sense, right? Let me give you an example. Right now, big fight coming up here, Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather. How long has Floyd been boxing? Right? So we know all of his adult life. So roughly, I think he's 42, 43. So 25 years, right? A lot of times we see people after they've made it, and we want to compare ourselves to them. Well, you can. Because it's like that iceberg. You know, the Titanic was sunk by an iceberg. Okay? Thank you. And the iceberg, a lot of it was above the water, but the majority of it was beneath the water. So it's not what you see, it's what you don't see. Like I remember back in my younger days, and I'd see someone that was super successful, and I go, wow, look at that. That person is amazing. I would love to be like them, or I would love to have that skill. I know you'd love to have that skill, but are you prepared to do what they did? Are you prepared to sacrifice the things that they've had to sacrifice? So most of success is what you don't see, right? So like I'm gonna do this show in 20 minutes, right? And I just got some notes here, I'm putting some stuff together, and you say, you know what, I can do that. Well, the part that you don't see is almost 20 years of being self-employed. 20 years whereof, if it's to be, it's up to me, where I had to make it happen. Okay, that's the part that you don't see. You know, you don't see all the struggles. You don't see all the challenges. You know, we make everything look good, man. You know, you see us, we're smiling, got on a new shirt, right? So everything looks good. But you don't see the challenges. You don't see the adversities. You know, we see the good, and there's nothing wrong with that. So take a look at what you've been successful in the past. Okay, so what do you feel passionate about? For me, it's been the same thing all through the years. I've got a couple mentors, and when I seen them doing what they were doing, I said, man, I'm excited for them, but I would love to be able to do that one day. But I can't. And I said, well, George, why you can't? I said, well, I don't know, but I can. I can't do that. I can never do that. Man, I could never talk to people. I could never make a video. I remember when I made my first video like this. If you look back, it was probably about 4 or 5 years ago, right? And man, it was so hard. It was so difficult to make that video, all right? And so, but I felt passionate enough because I think we can't have enough education. We can't have enough voices. You got so many voices that send people down the wrong road, man. I would love to be the voice that help empower you, that help you get to wherever it is that you want to go. Love to be that voice, all right? I would love to be what so many others have been for me. So many others have paved the way for my wife and myself. So, but here we go. So, what would you be willing to do for free? So we talked about what you are passionate about, but what would you be willing to do and do it for free? What would you be willing to do for free? Ask yourself that, okay? Because to get started, you may have to do it for free. I'm doing this for free. This is free. Why? Because I feel passionate enough about it. I feel strong enough about it, okay? And so, so this is an indication of what you're good at, because let me help you understand something. If you're not passionate about it and you're not willing to do it for free, then you're not going to be good at it, because you have to do it long enough until you're good at it. So if you like baking, then you might have to make some free cakes, man, and give them away. Okay? You're not going to get good at it unless you love to do it. All right? So is there something that you can use currently to help you add to your income? So what is that thing? All right? If it's baking, then let's get the baking. Let's get going. All right? You say, well, George, I don't have a kitchen. I don't have a stove. I don't have the stove that I need. I know you don't have everything that you need. But what do you have? I remember when we were kids, we used to bake in those little ovens. Remember the little ovens? I forget what we used to call them, but the pans were like this big. Remember? So don't let what you can't do stop you from doing what you can do. So there are things that you can do. So what can you do? All right. So maybe you can set a goal to, watch a video. There are a lot of videos out there, a lot of YouTubes where people are baking. Okay. So maybe you make that your goal. All right. So number one is, what have you been successful at in the past? And so what we're doing is, I want to teach you to fail. I want you to be the biggest failure. That's probably the difference between me and a lot of other people. I'm just a big old failure. Okay? So I failed at a lot, man. I've had a lot of businesses that I failed at. Okay? But all you need is one to work. One, maybe two, in your entire lifetime. All right? And let me give you an example when we talk about failure. Pfizer company, the chemists were developing a pill to treat cardiovascular ailments. So they were in the laboratory. They're trying to come up with this pill that's going to treat heart disease. Okay? And they failed miserably. But what they did invent is, in 1998, this pill, it didn't help with cardio disease, but what it did help with which was a side effect. It helped with erectile dysfunction. Viagra. Okay? So Viagra wasn't found because they were looking for it. It was found as a byproduct of a failure. Now it is a $5 billion industry in which Pfizer company gets $1.9 billion every year from Viagra. And they founded the industry. Because now we got Cialis, we got all these other things. See, I watch the commercials. Okay, so, all right, here's point number 2. We got about 2 minutes, but I want to get point number 2 in. The point number 2 is to be open to new ideas. Right? Sometimes we can be so closed. You know, we know a lot. But you know, if something comes to you, if God sends you an idea, if you want to say the Holy Spirit sends you an idea, what are you going to do about it? Okay? Do something about it. In order to get something you've never had, you've got to do something that you've never done. Have you heard that before? Have you heard that insanity is doing the same thing but expecting different results? Let me give you a secret. More than likely, your job is not going to do it for you. All right? Now you say, well, what's this got to do with relationships? Everything. Okay? You know, as we talked about in some of our previous videos, you know, infidelity, especially for men, can be birthed out of financial challenges because he feels like a failure. That's why I would encourage you, if you have someone in your life that you feel like needs to hear this information, and I don't know how this video is going to come out because I'm taping it and it's kind of sideways, so man, please forgive me if it comes out that way. But send this to them, okay? Because, you know, one thing I learned, we hear a lot about Martin Luther King. Who we don't hear a lot about is about Malcolm X. And Malcolm X preached something called nationalism, and basically where you empower yourself. I got a secret for you. If you're waiting on God, he's waiting on you, right? I run across so many people say, oh, I'm just waiting on the Lord. I'm waiting to hear from the Lord. Well, did he wake you up today? Then you heard from him. Have you heard the story about the young lady who she was in a house? Okay, just give me, we're out of time, all right? But she was in a house and there was a flood. And so I'm sure you heard this story a million times. But the county guy comes by on a boat, all right? And he says, hey, no, I'm sorry. He comes by in the Jeep and he says, hey, listen, it's going to be a flood. We need you to evacuate premises. She says, I'm waiting on the Lord. County guy comes back in a boat. And he says, hey, as you can see, the water level's pretty high. Lady's living, she's contained now on her second floor of her house. And he says, hey, he comes by on the boat. He says, hey, there's a flood. We're trying to get everybody out. She says, I'm waiting on the Lord. Waiting to hear from the Lord. Hadn't heard a word from the Lord. Okay? And then they sent another county guy by in a helicopter because by this time it had taken over her entire house. She said, I still haven't heard from the Lord. I ain't going nowhere till I hear from the Lord. All right? Well, she drowns. She gets up to heaven. All right? And she's fire mad. All right? Now, I don't think this is scriptural, but it's just a story, okay? And so she's fire mad. And God said, well, what are you upset about? She said, well, I can't believe you let me drown. She says, well, God says, well, I sent you a county guy in a Jeep. I sent you one in a boat. And I sent you one in a helicopter. What else were you looking for? So, ladies and gentlemen, if it's to be, it's up to me. Remember, when you see a turtle on a fence post, remember, they didn't get there by themselves. All right? And so, here's what that means. That means that if it's to be, it's up to me. So, let's get moving. We're going to have part 2 to this lesson come next week. Hey, thank you so much for listening in. God bless you. Take charge, take control, and take a chance. Send this video out. Okay, hopefully it's not sideways. God bless you.